Hi there. Folks often want me to do videos of the interior of the simulator, so I'm going to do that today because I just completed a panel rebuild, and I've got the light on the phone going here to help illuminate this. But here's the new panel, built out of 1/4-inch MDF, just like the last one, slightly flatter paint. And I rebuilt it for two reasons. Number one, I now have these two GPS units, the 430 and the 530 from Real Sim Gear. They're both excellent, by the way. And I also have the new Verino TPM unit, which comes from Virtual Flight, and who also makes the yoke, the Yoko yoke. And I wanted to get those correctly installed and then redo the layout to allow for the GPS units. So I'll show just sort of how I have things laid out, and then I know people want to see behind the scenes, so I'll show that also. Still running the flight information panels from SciTech here for VOR 1 and 2, and for the RPM gauge and for the fuel gauge. We've got a desktop aviator fuel tank select switch there, the FSX dual intercom, trim wheel, and another throttle quadrant. People ask me why I have that throttle quadrant. I use it for different things. If I'm flying in a Piper, I'll make this the throttle and the mixture, and then I can assign them to parking brake and other things when I need to. An iPad running Remote Flight Cockpit HD for the 6-pack. Then we've got the Flight Illusions radio stack. You can see I've moved the radio switch panel up here, and then I've got the transponder here. And then I kept one of the comm radios. I know you probably wouldn't have three comms. We've got comm 1 here and comm 2 here, but I might want to simulate not using GPS for the radio stack. So I kept one comm radio, and then we've got the DME, and we've got the autopilot. And then over here we've got another FIP, which is running the flight display gauge from Tom Sui. And in fact, all these gauges are Tom Sui gauges from FSX Times. Oh, and then a desktop aviator Cessna switch panel down below. And I have that tied to the, turn on the backlights for the aviation stack with the nav light. So that's the front of the panel. I'll show you underneath real quick. Not much going on down here. I've got the lighting, which I haven't secured yet, for the LED lights. And then there's the brace I built for the throttle quadrant. And then up top, I've got the USB hubs, 3 powered hubs, 2 amps each, so I can have about 500 milliamps or more for each plugged in device. The back of the Flight Illusion stack, the back of the GPS units, oops, sorry about that. They're not quite flush because I've got this this HDMI cable here. Sorry, I'm trying to get this so you can see. This HDMI cable here doesn't quite fit, so I've got an elbow joint coming for that, an adapter. I keep the 2 speakers back here in case I want to use speakers instead of headphones. And then I have the iPad mounted. I've got a piece of MDF there for it to sit on to boost it up a little bit, a little duct tape, and then I just made a small brace for it with a piece of steel tie. And then, oh, for the glare shield, this brace is just a piece of 2x2 that I've secured into the base of the panel base. And then I've got some MDF across the top. And then what I do is I put a piece of cardboard across there, and then the foam glare field sits on top of that, and it's sturdy enough I can actually set a cup of coffee up here without any problem. So that is pretty much how it works. Now with the latest X-Plane update, the GNS dials aren't working yet, so they're not fully functional, but they will be soon. That update, the plugin should be updated soon. And then you can see that the Flight Illusion stack switches the radios. as you would expect, and switches the nav as you would expect. So those things are integrated naturally behind the scenes. And I guess that's about it. I don't think there's much more to talk about in terms of the new panel. I'm eager to get the GPS. In the meantime, I have the small rotary dial unit also from Desktop Aviator, and I've tied those rotary encoders to keystrokes, and the keystrokes are tied to the GPS. So if I want to change the zoom on the GPS, I can do that. And if I want to change chapters or pages within chapters, I can do that easy enough. And then I've also tied over here the buttons on the side of this unit to represent the different buttons. So if I wanted to hit direct, I can hit direct, and then I can start to put in a direct to with the rotary encoders. So it's not optimal, but it's good enough. And then I have this over here set to enter. So it gets me by, but it'll be nice when the plugin is updated and this stuff is all fully functional. So that's the panel update, and I hope you guys like it. I haven't put the glare shield back on yet, but I think it looks good. And one other thing is, that's one display, 2 displays, 3 displays, 4 displays, 5 displays, and my GTX 1080 Ti can only display 4 displays at a time. So I updated the BIOS, or modified my BIOS, to allow for multiple GPU cards, and I have this unit from RealSim Gear plugged into the digital video port on the onboard GPU for my computer. So the TI is running the 3 main screens in this, and this is running that. And what's interesting is I've had no appreciable difference in frames from doing that. So it didn't seem to harm it at all. I know X-Plane doesn't officially support SLI, but I would be curious to know if I put in my old video card, if I could run some of these visuals off of that and have it work. And but the fact of the matter is, my problem isn't the GPU, my problem is my CPU in terms of bottleneck. So there you go, there's the panel update, and I hope that helps folks building their simulators, and thanks for watching.